One of my favorite analogies for depression is that it's like being in an ocean and you realize that you can't really swim in this ocean. I feel like it comes with a lot of like stigmatized shame, which I really don't understand. I've never understood why people are meant to feel shame for mental illness. For me, my depression comes from a lot of the fact that I have a constant desire to be validated because I experienced a lack of validation in my family and I experienced a lack of validation growing up. So being an adult now, I am now dealing with the consequences of the fact that I wasn't validated for so long that I am constantly searching for it, and when I don't feel validated, my mind overreacts and I catastrophize and my mind immediately resorts to the negative and so on and so on. I remember it just kind of got to this point where I was like, I don't know who to be unless I have a script in my hand, and I don't feel that there's a reason for me living. Like, I honestly did not see any rational point to my existence. In my journals, I journaled like crazy from the ages of 12 on, because my first therapist was like, you should keep a journal, that's good for you. I remember one of the things I wrote the most in my journal until I was about 15 years old was, I have absolutely no idea who I am. And that thought terrified me. Playing this performance as the Tassa that everybody wants me to be. I didn't want to be in pain anymore. And I would rather just end my life completely and not have to deal with the scariness of trying to figure out myself. I really didn't make this connection that I wanted to live and that I wanted to get better, really until I was 19. The more I got the shit happening in my head out of my head, the more tangible it became, and thus the more realistic it became to overcome. Once I started talking about my feelings and really being concrete and specific about why I was feeling the way that I was, and really getting to the root of the problem and taking away all the layers of stuff. And I didn't really appreciate therapy as much as I do now. For everybody, it's a completely different process, but there have been proven, continuously proven things that work. And I think that all of it narrowed down, if you take away all of the bullshit, it all comes down to acknowledgement of the depressed person's feelings and validation of their feelings. It's really about making the person feel like they're being heard and that they're important enough and significant enough and meaningful enough that their existence really does matter. No matter what their mind is trying to tell them. That's the rationality that your mind has when you're in that mind place. You really think. It makes complete and total sense to you. My existing no more makes perfect sense in my head to me. I do not think that I have a reason for living. When I go in saying I'm really depressed and then I leave the session understanding that I was depressed because of the fact that my grandmother once told me when I was 3, if I'm angry with you, then that means I don't love you very much anymore. When I make those kinds of connections, it's oh, okay, that's why my mind is working the way that it is. My illness actually makes sense to me.